Water is the lifeblood of your aquarium. Whether it's saltwater or freshwater, water is the most important element of any aquarium system. Plumbing is the lifeline in which that water is transported to your fish. Hello there, fellow fish keepers. It's Mike with the Fish Tank Barn, and I'd like to welcome you back to another video. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about aquarium plumbing. We're going to go through quite a few different aspects of plumbing. We're going to go through what the different fittings are, talk about some of the equipment I use, and then we're going to show you a little bit on how to actually put the fittings and everything together. So let's go ahead and talk about the equipment that you may need to use or that you will have to use for your plumbing project. The first thing that you're going to need is a PVC cutter. I prefer to use something like this. Basically what it is, it's ratcheting. So if you want to cut something, you just kind of take it in here and you just kind of, it clicks, and then it will cut it. And it'll give you a pretty decent cut. These will run you about 15 to 20 bucks at your local hardware store. One thing you need to be extremely careful of is the blade right here is extremely sharp, and it will cut you. It's not, if it will cut you, it will cut you. That's something definitely to keep in mind with this, and all of the other equipment here is to keep the safety in mind. For some reason, if you don't have that, they do make these PVC saws as well. Also, I would use something like this on a bigger piece of plumbing, say like a 2-inch piece. This says it goes up to 2.5 inches, but I wouldn't use it on anything bigger than 1.5 inches. Other things that you're going to need, if you're working with threaded fittings, you're going to need some thread tape. Alright, you would use thread tape in a situation where you have a threaded fitting. So you'd have a threaded male fitting here and a female fitting here. If you can see, the threads go inside there. So what you're going to need to do with this is you basically will take, so you'll take your thread tape and just wrap it around like so, and then you would just screw it in here. Take your male and put it into your female, and then you would obviously tighten this down more, but the tape will keep it from leaking through the threads of the actual fittings when you combine them together. So finally, you are going to need PVC glue and PVC primer. So the PVC primer that I like to use, you can get these both on Amazon. I prefer to not use the big box store brand. I find that this stuff works better. The primer that I like to use is called Well-Done P70. And then I also like to use the Well-Done 711. Are the two things that I like to use. I've had very good luck with the joints on those. I've not really had anything leak with those, so I'm pretty happy with that as well. The store-bought brand definitely has some issues with leaking. The joint's a little bit brittle, so I like this a lot better. So let's go ahead now and talk about some of the PVC pieces you'll find at your local hardware store and what exactly they're used for. So let's go ahead and we'll start with the simplest ones first. This right here is just your common straight piece of PVC. It's generally sold in 10-foot sections. So a 10-foot section, depending on the size, can run you between $1 to anywhere up from there. So the next commonly used fitting that you'll see is called an elbow. So what it does is it makes a 90-degree angle. So if you stick it on here, and then you stick another piece on here, it makes a 90-degree angle for you. They also sell different degrees of angle, so you could actually get a 22-degree angle, a 45-degree angle, depending on what type of plumbing you're using, etc., etc. But generally, most people will either use 45s or 90s. Alright, so the next fitting we're going to talk about is the T. This is really good for making things such as manifolds. So if you stick plumbing together like this, you stick this together like this, and then say you wanted to have something come off of here, you could do something like this. So that's what a T does. Alright, so the next piece of equipment that we're going to talk about is a coupling. So what a coupling does is it'll couple two pieces of plumbing pipe together. So say you put this, you have this valve, right? And you've glued this previously, but you want to use it again. What you can do is you can take a coupling. So you put a coupling on the end of the pipe you want to use, and then you can couple this on like so. So now you can reuse this valve again. This is called a bushing. So this will take a larger piece of plumbing And if you want to reduce it to a smaller diameter, you can stick the bushing in like so. And then obviously now you can plumb in a smaller diameter like this. Alright, so the next piece of plumbing that you can run into that you might need is something called a cross. I don't use these very often. Basically in my time plumbing aquariums, I've used it basically for one project. But this is a cross, so basically you can hook in from 3 different directions or 4 different directions here. So this is definitely a pretty useful piece when you need it. This is called a union, and what this will allow you to do is, if you wanted to make it so you could like take a pump off of a system, say you had a pump and you want to take it apart to clean it, what you can do, like so they say this is your line right here, what you can do is you can shut this off, say it's shut off, right? And then you can unscrew the union. So you unscrew the union, and then you leave your pump here. You can take your pump out to clean it, and then all you have to do is screw the union back on. So this is definitely a very useful piece of equipment to have. The next piece of plumbing I do want to talk about here is Spaflex. So what this is, it's a still a PVC product, so you can use the same glues and everything on it. But what it allows you to do is it's bendy, and so it allows for you to get rid of very sharp corners and sharp bends. If you're worried about head pressure, you can make it so you don't have to do a sharp 90-degree angle. If you only need, like, say, like a 10-degree angle to get around something or get to something, it is actually very helpful to have this Spaflex. It is a lot more expensive than using just traditional straight pipe, but there are a lot of good uses for it. So let's take a minute and talk about valves real quick. There are 2 types of valves that you will find in your local store. One is the ball valve. So if you look inside of this, there's a little ball in here. So if you turn it, it opens and closes. Basically, it's like a half moon, and this will open and close. The other valve that we have here is a gate valve. So this has like your garden hose like this, and so this actually opens a gate that's inside of this piece of plumbing. As you open the gate, it would allow more water to flow through. With that being said, generally you find a lot more of these and a fewer of these. The difference basically between the two, this one is a little bit easier to control the flow. The turning on this is not as precise as you would say on this. Even that being said, these are generally fine for your home aquarium use. The only time I would really recommend using these instead is if you're playing with a saltwater protein skimmer and you really want to fine-tune the adjustment of the flow, because these are a lot better at fine-tuning the flow than something like this. Last but not least, we do have one more fitting here that I want to talk to you guys about, and what it's called is called the John Guest fitting, like having a guest in your house. They usually come in little packages like this, and these are actually push fittings. So this is the John Guest fitting. It is a little push fitting. You'll run into this if you're working on stuff like RODI units. So what this does is basically you will connect like a little line like this. So this is basically like a 1/4-inch water line that you would find in any of your RODI units, etc. So what this does is you basically will push this in, and then it connects. To unconnect something like this, there's a little mechanism in here. That you need to push in. So if you push this in, then you can get your pipe back out. So you put it in, then if you want to get it out, you can pull it out like that. So that's how the John Guest fitting works. You don't use it a whole lot, but when you need it, you need it. So that concludes kind of looking at all of the fittings. We will jump ahead now and we'll talk about actually how you would actually glue a piece of PVC. So now I'm going to explain how to actually glue a piece of PVC pipe and how it works. So let's go ahead and explain what we're actually doing when we're gluing PVC pipe together. What you're actually doing is you're creating a molecular bond between the 2 pieces of PVC pipe. So if you have your coupling and say our straight piece here, so what you're actually doing is creating a molecular bond between the actual PVC on both of these pipes, so that way they stick together and they will not come apart once you've glued them. So first we're going to use our primer here, and what the purpose of this primer is is to basically clean the PVC pipe and prepare the PVC for the glue. So what you're going to want to do is, we have our pipe here, and you want to do both pipes, is you want to make sure you get a generous amount of the primer on each of these. So like so. So you've got this primered up here. And then you want to primer this pipe as well. So we're putting the primer on this as well. Make sure it's all generous. Make sure you got a good amount on there. And then what we're going to want to do is take our glue. So what you want to do as well now is get a generous portion of glue on each one of the fittings. So if we've got this here, we're going to put a big generous glob of glue on this. And then we're going to go to the other one and use it on here as well. So we've got both of these generously glued now, and what we're going to do is we're going to stick these together like so, and we're going to turn it a little bit as we go in, just to make sure we've got an even distribution of glue and primer. And we're going to let this sit for just a second, and once it's cured, you will not get this apart. So it's been like 30 seconds and I cannot pull this fitting apart as hard as I try. So, and this is a 2-inch fitting, so it's a pretty big fitting and a pretty big diameter pipe, and you cannot get this apart. So that's the idea here, is to make this so it won't leak. Well there folks, I do hope you enjoyed this video on the Fish Tank Barn channel. If you did, so go ahead and hit the subscription button, ding the notification bell, so you don't miss any of the weekly videos we put out here on the channel. We do go live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, so join us for that as well. So with that being said, stay fishy, keep on breeding. We do hope to see you on the next video.